Hi guys, my name is Karthik and I am from executeautomation.com. And today in the second video of our Selenium Java from basic to advanced video series, we are going to talk about installing and getting the environment ready for our Java coding development and our Selenium test automation code development. So we'll see how we can get started with that. So basically, it's time for us to roll up our sleeves and dive into setting up our environment for hands-on programming experience. That's what we are going to be doing in this particular lecture. So we basically need following to be set up within our machine before we start writing the Java code along with the Selenium automation code. So basically, we need to have what is called as a Windows machine or a Mac machine or Linux machine. It can be any operating system that you are using. You can just work with any operating system because so you know that basically Java works cross-platform in any operating system. So you can just build the code in a Windows machine and you can run the same code in Linux and the Mac operating system as well. It doesn't matter. You can run the same Java program in any of these operating systems. That's the reason why Java is quite popular. And there are many other programming languages these days which also runs in cross-platform, which is the reason why many other programming language has evolved, but following the footstep of Java. Because so Java is one of the best languages to do that in the first stage before any other programming language even thought about it. That is the power of the Java. So in your case, in order for us to work with the Java programming language and for Selenium automation, you need to have these operating system. And then you also need to have Java version 17 or above installed within a machine. I mean, there are many different versions of Java available. And the one which I'm going to be using in this demonstration is going to be Java 21, which was released like a couple of months before. So we'll be using the latest version of Java, which is Java 21 for this particular lecture. So that is thing that you need to have installed within a machine. And then we also need to use an IDE, or otherwise called as integrated development environment. So basically, you can write a Java code in a notepad as well, doesn't matter. And then you can do Java C to compile the code, and then you can run the code using the Java command. But if you have a good integrated development environment, you can run the code and build the code using the same IDE itself. So you don't really have to write in a notepad, which is quite very hard if you're going to be like a beginner. And then if you're going to be writing any code using notepad, it's going to be very hard for you to follow along. So it's always recommended that you use any of these two IDE for you to get started with. Eclipse is the free version, so you can always use Eclipse in any of the operating system without any problem. And IntelliJ IDE has got what is called as a community edition. So you can use the community edition for your personal use. But if you are going to be using that within your organizations, then community editions is not something that you can use. So in most of the companies that you may be working with, will be using Eclipse IDE or NetBeans IDE, which is completely free for the usage purpose. But if you don't have a license within your company for IntelliJ IDE, you may not able to use IntelliJ IDE Community Edition as well, because it is a licensed version that you need to purchase for the company. If not, your company will be sued by IntelliJ. So that is the reason why Eclipse is very popular among community, because it's quite free. And finally, you also need to have a good browser installed in the machine. I'm definitely hoping you all will have these kind of browser like Chrome, Firefox, or Safari if you're using Mac installed in a machine. So that shouldn't be any problem. So these are the requirements for you to have within your machine. And once we have that, we can then get started with the installation and see how things work in real time. So for that, I'm going to jump into my Windows 11 machine, which is this one. So for few of the demonstration, for few of the initial demonstration, we'll be using Windows operating system in this particular series. We may be hopping to Mac operating system in later point of time. In fact, this recording which I'm doing, it is a Windows machine which is running on a Mac operating system. So basically, this is like a Windows or running on Mac operating system using Parallels Desktop. So you can see that this is Apple machine that I have got. But it is running Windows on the top of it. So that's how it is. Well, as that said, I'm going to show you what are the things that you need to first of all install. So you need to have Windows machine or Windows operating system within your machine. I already have that. So first checkbox is done. Second one is we need to install the Java itself. So most of the time your machine, if you're going to be starting from the scratch, you may not have Java installed within your machine. But if you have installed some software which has the requirement for Java to be installed, that Java might have installed along with that particular software, but it's not going to be the case all the time. So make sure that you install the Java JDK from the Oracle website and then install it so that you always know that the Java is there. So for doing that, I'm going to open the browser and just go to Google and search for Java JDK. So I'm going to say Java JDK 21, as I told you, and I'm going to download for Windows 11 operating system. So you see that Java download is available. So go ahead and click that, and you will see that there is Java 22 as well available, and they have 21 and Java 17. I'm going to go with Java 21. I know this is a stable version. And you can see that Java 21 binaries are free to use in production as well as free to redistribute at no additional cost, which is great. So we can just use it for free. And I'm using my Windows operating system. So I'm going to go select this Windows and I can just download the installer from this exe file. So you see that it is downloading over here within my machine, and I can just open the file and I can start installing it here. There we go. So you get this window here, and it is going to install within your C: program files directory. It's going to copy the files. And there we go. The installation is successfully completed. I can just close the pop-up window there. And once it is installed, you can also make sure that the Java is really installed in your machine or not. Sometimes you may need to log off your machine or restart your machine to have this changes being affected. If not, sometimes like the modern operating system like Windows, it just works fine with the installation. You just go to your Windows terminal over here. And if you just search for Java -- version, and if you hit enter, you should see that there is going to be a Java 21 being installed over here, which is great. So it is already installed. It is a LTS version. So you can see that what this LTS version means. So if you see in Java, we have got the version over here like 21.0.4. You remember in our last video, we were talking about like software build. So basically software version it is. And over here, the Java it's also been released by one of the developers in Oracle, and they have this version number given as 21.0.4. That is the version number, and it is released on this date, as you can see, and it is an LTS or long-term or long-time support. So that's what is LTS is all about, which means this version is going to be supported for a long time. You're going to be getting the support update from Oracle for this Java 21 version for quite a long time. That's what is the long time serviceability updates that you're gonna keep on getting it from LTS version. And you also notice that after the Java, I also have got a Java SE runtime environment. So this is basically like a JRE in short form, which is especially used for running the application itself within my Windows machine. So you need to have a JRE installed in the machine so that it can run the code using this runtime. So this Java is basically like a JDK or Java developer kit, which is going to be used for developing the code with Java. And the Java runtime is basically going to be used for running the application. That's what is this Java runtime environment is all about. So these are the two things which is already there. You also have got some hotspot there, which is going to be of the same version as you can see. So this is Java installation, which is great. We have done that. Now let's get back to the IDE, which I was talking about. So I'm going to go back to Google over here, and then I'm going to download the Eclipse IDE. So I'm gonna say Eclipse download. Cool, it just knows that. And we have this Eclipse download link over here. And then you can just download the Eclipse from this particular package. So I'm gonna go ahead and download that from here. And it's gonna be downloading from my nearest Australian network. Once again, it's completely free to use, so you can just use it without any problem within your organization. And once I click this open file from here, it is going to start the Eclipse installer for me. Let me close this terminal. And you can see that we have an Eclipse installer available, and we will be listed with quite a lot of different versions of the same Eclipse itself. For example, Eclipse IDE for Java developers, Eclipse IDE for enterprise Java and web developers, Eclipse IDE for C and C++ developers, embedded C and C++ developers, PHP developers, and there are so many different versions available. But the one that we are going to be using is going to be just the Java developers version. So don't worry about the other versions that we have got. We are not even going to get into those versions, at least for this particular series. So I'm going to go choose the Eclipse IDE for Java developer, and it is going to install in this directory. As you can see, it is installing within my users, Karthik KK, Eclipse, and there is this version number over here for the Java. And you'll also notice that it is directly using the Java version 21, which we have installed. So if you don't have that version, it is going to be downloading it for you if you specify that. See, it's actually using the Java runtime environment, JRE 22.0.1 or 21.0.3 for us. So because we already have Java, which also includes JRE in it, it automatically points, this Eclipse installer automatically points to this location, and it is using this location for using the Java runtime environment to perform the installation for us, which is great. So we are presented with some EULA or end user agreement, and I'm going to accept it. And then I'm going to start the installation process. So you can see that it's going to take a bit of a time over here for installing. In my case, it is a bit faster, if I'm not wrong. And you can see that the installation is completed successfully over here. Now I can go ahead and launch the Eclipse installer by clicking this launch button, and you should see the Eclipse IDE is coming up for us over here. So this is how we do the installation of Eclipse, and it is very, very straightforward. But the first thing, once the Eclipse installation is done and once you open the Eclipse IDE for the first time, it will be asking you to create a workspace where you are going to be working with your code. So you can see that it is giving me a C, users, Karthik KK, Eclipse workspace. This is the place where all your code resides from the project that you create within your Eclipse IDE. You can put everything on that workspace. So based on the workspace, you can open up multiple different projects within it. And I'm actually gonna put that beside my other workspace that I have got, the Eclipse workspace that I have got over here. But I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call this as workspace, just workspace. I'm gonna use this workspace use this as a default location, and do not ask and hit this launch button. So next time while the IDE opens, it doesn't go and ask me that I have to use this workspace or not. It just opens automatically. And now you can see that the IDE is starting up. So basically what's happening behind the scene is that it is actually placing some of the supported files required for the Eclipse IDE to work on that particular directory. So if you just go to the E:\workspace folder, you see that there is a .metadata folder being created by the Eclipse IDE, and they have got something like a plugins and Mylin, something like that. And if there is any specific plugin that you are going to be working with, it's all going to be sitting over here. So you can change the plugin and you can do whatever that you wanted to do in future. It's all going to be residing it over here, very specific for that workspace, right? So there we go. So now we have the IDE, and I'm also getting a pop-up window here saying that, is your IDE currently running with Java 17? To prevent problems, please read the following carefully. So if you have like an older version of Java 17, then you probably need to follow these steps to ensure that you set up everything correctly. But because we have set up everything correctly, everything looks okay. And you also notice that there is going to be a window showing here that Microsoft Windows Defender is active and could significantly decrease the startup and overall performance of the Eclipse IDE. So do you want to just skip the Eclipse IDE or exclude the Eclipse IDE from being scanned to improve the performance? So you can do that as well. And I mostly do that because we know that this is our IDE and it's not going to be causing any security harm or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed it, and you are done. So that is what we are going to be doing for the installation part and getting started part. I just approve this PowerShell over here because this needs to be approved by administrator, and there we go. So the installation part is done and we have our Eclipse IDE opened up over here. So this is the installation part for the whole getting started for you. So once you have it, now you have the playground to work with this Java programming language, and from this moment onwards you have the ability to write the better coding with Java, because you don't really have to go with Notepad to all these things. You can just use this IDE to perform writing the code, compiling it, and executing the code. And you can also see the result over here in the terminal itself, so that you don't really have to hunt around for the terminals. So you can do everything from here. So this is really cool IDE that I would suggest you to just use it. And if you use IntelliJ IDE, it is even more cooler than this one, because that is a paid version and this is a free version. So that is the major difference between both of them. Well, as I said, I am going to start creating the first Hello World application from here. So in order to do that, I'm going to go select this file, and you see that there is a new menu coming up, and then you need to choose the project that you're looking for. So you can go with Java project or Maven project, or you can just create like an empty project. I would recommend you to go with the Java project. That is what is the first step that you are going to be doing, because you're going to learn Java right now. So Java project is better. But once we get into probably Selenium, we are going to use Maven project, because that is where we are going to be ensuring that we can add the dependencies and stuff. And it also has got a project structure, like the application source and then the test code source and other structures there. So that is basically like a scaffold of code that you get once you select the Maven project. But at the moment, we are going to be just going with the Java project. So Java project is more like an empty project, which will give you the ability to add Java code in it. You can add the classes, then you can add the packages and stuff. So I'm going to go choose the Java project from here. And you'll notice that we're going to get a new Java project window. So here is where we are going to define the name of our project. So basically, you can have multiple different projects within your same Eclipse IDE, but it's always recommended that for testing, we always create like one project, like a one testing project, and then we can build on the top from that particular project itself. So now I'm going to give a name of the project over here as the as a Java learning, and make sure that the project name always start with a small letter. So I'm going to use Java learning over here, and it is going to set in my workspace which I have created. And I'm also going to choose the Java JDK. Looks like I also have 22 version installed in my machine. So it is automatically taking version number 22, while I also have 21 in my machine. So I'm going to use 21 or 22, doesn't matter. So if you have already installed 21, just go with that. If you also have 22, the latest version, I mean, it's not harm for you to use the latest version. So you can use that version as well if you don't, if you really wanted to. I mean, it's all up to you, because the code that we are going to be writing is going to be anyways compiling in any of the Java version. It can be 22, it can be 21, it can be even 17. That shouldn't be a problem. So if you have already installed 21, and if you already have 22, you can choose 22, doesn't matter. It just works without any problem. That the code is not going to be complaining you that you have downloaded the older version and this code is not going to work on that version. No, not like that. It is just going to work because the code that we are going to learn is going to be a getting started Java code, and it's just going to work. Well, as I said, I'm going to choose the execution environment as the latest version, Java 22. No harm on that. And then I'm going to choose this create separate folder and source for the class files. I'm just going to let this thing as it is. And there is a create module.info.java files that you wanted to add or not. I'm telling you that this is not even required for now because we're just getting started. We don't really require the module.info or module-info.java file. It is something that you need while you go bigger. So it is completely not required for us right now. And I'm just going to hit this next button. So hopefully you got the idea of what we're doing over here. We just set the project name, and then we use the default location of our workspace. We use the JRE, which is the latest version we have got. And I'm going to leave all of these as it is, except I don't need the module info Java file. I'm going to hit next, which is going to create it's going to bring me up a Java settings page, which is going to give me what are the things that you're going to add within your source file. So you can see that you can create quite a lot of things over here. You can create a new source folder if you wanted to from here itself. You can link an existing source if you have, or you can also configure inclusion and exclusion filters if you wanted to, and all those things that you can do from here. Guess what? I don't want to confuse you at this point of time. So I'm just going to leave everything by default as it is. I'm just going to leave that. And you can also notice that we have got some projects tab over here where it's going to tell you the modules path and class path. Don't worry about that as well. And there is a libraries. By default, it is going to take the JRE or the Java runtime environment as version number 22. And as I told you, we have chosen the version 22 in the JRE while we created a project. So the module path also has got the JRE library in it. So if you're going to be using Selenium and if you're going to add those things in a later point of time, you can also have that library in the module path. So those things are going to remain exactly the same. Don't worry about the order and exports and module dependencies because we don't have any of the modules at the moment. So I'm just going to leave this as it is. And I'm going to just hit this finish over here, and it is going to magically create me a project, which you can see. I mean, I can just close this window, which we don't really require. And we can also close this. I mean, we don't need to check this box over here, like always show welcome at startup. So I'm just going to close this welcome, tata, bye-bye. It's never going to appear anymore. And we have got our project explorer right now. So you can see that this is the project that we actually created, the Java learning project. And we also have the JRE system library, which is the Java 22 version. And we have got a source package, source folder, where now you can add the new package or classes or interfaces or enum, records, whatever that you wanted to add. You can do whatever that you can do on the source folder. So SRC stands for the source folder or the source code folder of the Java programming language. So we have already got that. So hopefully you got the idea until here. So you have installed the Java, you have installed the IDE, you created a project, and this is how the project structure is going to look like. And once you have this, you can then finally start creating a package and a class file. I'm going to do those two alone in this session. And I will let you to do that yourself before you get into the next session, because I'm telling you what, this seems to be easier in the first instance if you have never tried it before. But once you do it yourself, you're going to encounter some issues in terms of installation, or maybe the IDE won't even spawn up, or you may need to have multiple restarts of your machine. So just get all these things set up before you jump into the next video, because yeah, that's how it's going to be. So I always recommend you to try out yourself before you go any further. And as that said, I'm going to go choose the source folder. I'm going to right click this folder, and you will see that we have this new menu coming up. And over here, I'm going to create a new package. So this is package. What is package in Java? Basically, package is like a collection of multiple classes or interfaces or record types different types within a single package. So if you are using Selenium, they use something called as org.openqa.selenium. So org is basically the organization name. And then we have got the OpenQA, which is nothing but a package, or otherwise called as the collection of all the org stuffs within that. And then there is this OpenQA dot Selenium is another package. So you can see that there is a structure naming that you have got while you write the code. I mean, just don't worry about it. Just consider for now that package is like a collection of different classes and types that you're going to be creating. That's what this package is all about. So you need to have a package. You can just create a class if you wanted to, but there will be a name collision, and you can also have like a maintainability issues in the future. So those things will happen if you don't really have a package. So that's why it is always recommended that you have a package. So every single time you create a class file, make sure that you also have a package. That is the first thing that you need to understand, because every single code that we write in future, it's all going to reside inside a package, and from the package it is going to keep on extending further. And I will tell you how the package is going to be helping you to get along with differentiating between different packages and having the same class name on that. Well, as that said, I'm just going to create a package name over here, and I'm going to give the name for the package. So the name, I'm not going to leave that as Java Learning. I'm just going to stay as the first one, right? So it's going to be basic day 1, something like that, right? So should be fine. And I can also add a create package info.java if you wanted to, but I'm just going to leave that as it is. And I'm going to hit finish button over here. See that there is a white color package being added for us this time. And now within this package, I can also add a class file. So if I hit a class there, this is the first time that you are going to be creating a Java class file. So now you may have a question like, what is this, Karthik? What is class? Well, class in a nutshell is like a collection of members and types inside it, which is going to perform the operation that you're looking for. Just consider that. So class is where you're going to be writing the real code. So all these days, what we have did is just a setup operation. But while you start writing a code in Java, you are going to essentially do it from this class file. So the class file is like a playground for you to write the actual code. So this is the place where you start writing the code itself. And you will understand while I start writing the code in this class file that how absolutely beautiful the class is while you start writing it. And you also notice that we have got the structure over here, like a source folder like Java learning/src, which is this directory. It also has got a package name like basic day 1. And you can also give the name starting from here. So the name over here is nothing but the class name that you're going to be specifying. And I'm going to say the first program as my class name. That is my class name, which I'm going to be making it happen. And I'm going to leave that class as public modifier, which means it is going to be a public class. What is public means it's like an access modifier, which means you can access this class file from another class file if it is a public type. If it is a private type, which means it can't be accessed from outside because it names private, right? So it's the access modifier is private, so you can't access that. And if it is protected, then it is going to have different levels of accessing, which don't worry about it because I don't want to get into too much on the details of how every single access modifier is going to work. So I'm just going to leave this public access modifier as it is. And I'm not going to make this as abstract or final or static as well. I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm going to hit this none, which is great. I'm not going to select the sealed or non-sealed or final, whatever. And then I'm going to leave the rest of these things like superclass as java.lang.object, because every single class file has a superclass of java.language or lang.object. object. So even this class first program is an object in object-oriented programming. So that's why it is object-oriented programming. Every single code that you write or every single class that you write, it is otherwise called as an object in the programming language, which is Java in here. So I'm just gonna leave the superclass as it is. And then finally, I'm going to say which method or stub would you like to create. So this is important. This is the place where you have to take necessary step, because you're going to be writing the first code. You also are expecting the code to run within this IDE. And how does that really happens is that you're going to have like a starting point of a code. Just consider this. While you start your machine or you turn on your machine, the first thing the computer will look for, or the operating system will look for, is what is called as MBR, otherwise called as master boot record. So the computer's firmware or chip will look for, or otherwise called as BIOS, or you know, there is a blue color screen appears when a machine comes up, right? Like that is a BIOS, and that BIOS actually looks for a starting point of the disk, or nowadays no disk are being used, but they call it as like a record to start the code execution for your operating system to begin, and that points to what is called as MBR, or otherwise called as the master boot record. So that record knows how to execute the operating system that you're looking for, which is Windows in your case, or Mac in my case, right? So if that is the case, every single code has to have a initial kickstart point to execute for the coding to run. And that's exactly what we are going to be doing in our Java class as well. So while you try running this code for the first time, you also need to have a starting point for the code to execute. And that starting point in Java programming world is basically comes from this main method. So you see that there is a public static void main string args. Well, I was in college, I used to remember this every single day. Like I write a class file and then a public static void main string args. I don't even know what the hell is that really, but in fact that is a main method, which is like an initial point or the start method that the Java compiler is going to look for while it start executing the code. So you need to have this method in your program so that it will start executing it. That's what this method is all about. And I'm just going to just say inherited abstract method is fine. And then I'm going to hit finish over here. So that is going to create a program for me over here. Do you see that we have written a beautiful code without writing even a single line of code? So all these things are coming up for me over here because I have just created from the IDE. You see that it also did quite a lot of things for me in line number 1. It says there is a package of basic day 1, which is this one. So it knows this is a package, and you see the color is a bit different from this one because this is a keyword or reserved keyword in Java. That's why it is in purple color. And this basic day 1 is your own name. So it is now in the in a different color, like white, like a not bold, or and it's in black color. And you also notice that the package was in white color before. And once you added a class file, which is a Java file, you have a the package color has changed to brown color, which means now it has got something in there. That's a cool animation, right? It knows that there is a class file that it's looking for. And if you expand this Java, you also see that we have a class first program, which is this guy. And also it has got a method, main method. So it lists all the members. So these are called members in programming language world. So all these members are being listed in this hierarchical fashion. So if you're going to have another method in future, you're going to be having that thing listed as well. So let's say if I'm going to say public void new method, you see that method has come up already there. And then you can see this in this pure green color, which means there is a method being added and it just appears over there. I'm going to remove that for now. Yeah, but you got the idea how that works. As I told you, this is the starting method or the starting execution method, which the compiler will look for while executing your first program that you have written, which is this class file. So you need to have this method. If you don't really have this method, this code is not going to work. So if you just don't believe me, let's say I'm just going to comment this line of code. So what is that comment means? Basically, comment means, you see that there is a double slash over here, which means this line of code is never going to execute at all. So if I don't want this code to be executed, you have to put this double slash there like that. You see that now the black color has turned into green color, which means this code is never going to execute. I'm just going to save this. And if I try to run this code, now you may ask, like, Karthik, how do I actually run a code in Java? Well, the way that you do execution of the code is you need to run a Java compiler operation by using a Java C command. And then you need to run the program using Java and the program name. But guess what? All these complex operation you don't have to do in IDE case, because your IDE, which is this one, will take care of that for you automatically. So what does that really mean is that you just have to run this button or click this button, run button there. Do you see that there is this green color button after this bug symbol? So this is the debug button. And there is this run button there, which is going to execute the code for you. And then you just hit this run and you see that it's going to tell you that the selection cannot be launched and there is no recent launches. So what does that really mean? Meaning it couldn't able to run this code. That's what it's really telling you. I mean, don't worry about launches and all this stuff, but it really tells you in a nutshell that this code can't be executed because there is nothing that I can execute for you. That's what this particular message is telling you over here if I do that. So how do I execute this code? So let's say I'm just gonna control Z, which is for doing an undo of the code. And if I just gonna save this code, and if I hit this run button there, I don't see any message this time. Do you see that? I'm clicking this button literally there, and there is no message coming up, but something has really happened behind the scene. So what has really gone so far? Well, this code has really executed. So if you don't believe me, what has really happened behind the scene, if I just go right click this source folder, and if I just open the code, which I can do using, where is that? Right click, and there's this show in option, and you can use what is called a System Explorer option. You can just see how the code is being executed. If you just open that, you see that I get the Windows Explorer there, and you see that I have got the source folder which I just created, and I have also got the basic day one package name. So the package now looks like a folder structure, to be honest, right? So there is a source folder. So you see that the hierarchy now is a bit straightforward for you. The source is basically like a folder or a package. And then you also have got a basic day one inside the source folder. You see that now that is a basic day one. So it's basically like a folder structure. That's what I was saying. That's package is basically like a collection of different types in it. So you have got a basic day one package, which has been created. Just open this one, which is, it has the first program one, program.java, which is this one. You remember this is the class file that we just created, or the Java file that we just created. That's coming up as well. So that is cool. So we have did something here. And what has really happened when I click this run button? So we just navigate to the Java learning here. Do you see that we have also got a bin folder? So if we just open this bin folder, we have got again the same basic day one package there. I don't really have the source folder though, but I have a basic day one package. And if I open the basic day one folder, I have got a first program.class file. So I don't really have a Java file, but I have a class file there. So it's a different one. You remember like how it was before. If you just go to the source basic day one, we have first program.java, like how I'm seeing in the IDE. But if I open the bin folder and basic day one, we have something called as first program.class file. So what is this class file? Basically, the class in here means it's a compiled code. So basically, remember we wrote something like a class.firstProgram, a class of the first program. So this class file is being executed for us over here. as a class file. So the bin folder is basically like a binary. So bin shorthand for binary. So it's a binary folder which has got this package, and it has also got a class file. Now you may ask, like, Karthik, how do I open this file? Because it doesn't look like I can see that from here. Well, you just right click that and open with probably a notepad if I have one. Yeah, this notepad. And if I just once open it, you see how the code looks like? It's completely unreadable. Well, this is a bytecode. It's a binary bytecode which you can't read just from a notepad, because it is something which only the compiler can understand. So your Java has got this JDK that you install, you remember? That JDK actually has got the binary execution capability, and it understands how to run this code. So that's what this class file is. So every single time while you click that green run button there, all these operations are going to be happening for you automatically. If you don't believe me, again, I'm just going to delete this folder. I'm going to hit this run button. So I'm going to put them side by side. And if I hit this run button there, oops, you see that? We're getting exception here that there is no class file for this basic first program, which means I need to compile the project. So the way you can actually do that is by just going to the projects menu over here, and you see that we have got something called as build automatically. So this build is happening for you automatically every single time while you click that run button. But right now, because we don't have the class file, we're getting this exception over here. And you can fix this issue is by going to the project menu again and do a clean operation over here. So every single time you do a clean, which means it's going to clean the binary folder for you, and then it's going to recreate it for you. So I'm going to just do a project, and let me just open the bin folder, because you can see that side by side while I'm doing it. And I'm going to do a clean. You see that it's going to clean all the project, and at the moment we only have one project, which is the Java learning. And once I hit the clean, you see that we have got this basic day one folder being created. And that's happening because I have did a clean, and because we have a build automatically menu being selected, it's also doing a build for me automatically. That's what is happening behind the scene. So you have got the idea how the build is happening right now, right? We have got the class file. So that's what is happening under the hood every single time while you write the code in Java. All these magics are really happening for you. So if you have been asked in your interviews, or even while you are learning in college, like how the Java programs are being compiled and executed behind the scene, these are the things really happening for you. I hope you got the idea. So now we have got so many things in our plate to be done, like I'm telling about. You have to do installation of Java JDK. You also need to install the Eclipse IDE. You also need to write or create a project, and then you also need to compile the project and see how things work. So we have discussed quite a lot of things. The last thing which I wanted to do before even I close this session is I'm going to write an hello world code for you. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to print that value for you on the screen somewhere. Maybe there is this console over here. Do you remember this one, which has thrown us an exception? So this is like a feedback loop for us while we run a code in Java. It's going to give a feedback to the user saying this is what is happening behind the scene. At the moment, it gave me an error that it couldn't able to compile the code, but that error is no more relevant. So I can just clear the screen. I don't really need that because it's compiling right now. So if I hit this run, it just works fine, as you see. But now I also wanted to print some value to the user saying that I have completed my code execution. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to write some code which you may have seen before, but if you're not, this is what you do. You just do system. It's basically like a class file. Hit dot, and then in this package you have got the out, which is nothing but a class, which is going to do a print stream operation. Basically, this is the one which is responsible for you to do a printing operation on the stream. So what does the stream means? Basically, every single memory related operation that you do in Java is going to be on streams, like input stream and output streams. And this is a print stream, which is going to do a print operation for you on the screen or the console that you're looking for. So I'm going to do a print using the out, and then once I hit dot, I see some more methods coming up for me automatically, because this out method, out class file, has got these methods inside it. So now I can do a print operation or append operation or a close operation, flush operation. I can do quite a lot of different things from here. And the one which I am looking for is the print operations. I'm just going to say print, and you see that that print actually takes quite a lot of different operations as well, like Boolean, character, double, float. I mean, we have not discussed about the data types yet, which we are going to be discussing in our next lecture. But at least for now, you see that there are some things are happening. I mean, just don't worry about it. Just leave it as it is. And over here, I'm just going to put a double quotes to print a string value. I'm going to say, hello, Java test engineers. Something like that. And I close that using another double quotes, which means this is a string value which I'm trying to print out. That's what is really going to happen. I'm going to save this code, and I'm going to click this run first program once again, this button over here, as you see. And once I do that, magic, we have printed a value, hello Java test engineers code. So hope you got the idea now, right? Like, this is the way we actually print a value out to the console in Java using this way. So that is how we write our first program, by creating a project and then creating a initiation method, which is the static main method. And we also write a small code. I know this line of code doesn't make any sense if you're going to be looking up for the first time, but it will start making more sense while we get along this course. But at least for now, this is how you print a value out on the console, which is this guy over here. So if I modify something there like that, I run this, basically what happens behind the scene is it does the compilation of your code, creates the class file, which we saw there, and that class file is being executed as a binary file for us, and it shows an output for us over here. And you see that we have this execution happening using this Java w.exe file. So this is the one which is responsible for executing this code, and there is a process ID attached to that execution, which is PID of 11324. So it will not be constant all the time. So every time you execute it, it is also going to change. So see, the process ID is going to be 5072. And we got also a pop-up window there. It also told me something which I just missed that. So I'm going to like do that over here. And if I hit this execution, do you see that I actually did not save the code before I executed this code? So that's why you get this save and launch option. So you see that there is an asterisk over here near the first program, which means this code has not been saved. So you actually need to save the code before you start executing the code. So that's what this particular stuff is telling you to do over there. And now I have saved the code, and once I do this okay, it's going to do a save for me, and also it's going to run the code for me. So once I do that, you see that we get a few more exclamation symbol there. So that's what is really happening for us. So hope you got the idea. Now you are in a very, very good position to play around with your code. So just go ahead and install it, start playing around, write your own code over here. And if you're like going further, Google around, chat GPT around, and see what you can do to learn more programming language. Well, as that said, thank you so much for watching this video. Catch you in the next one, where we're going to be talking about data types in Java.